It's a very windy day today. I'm gonna brave doing a long ride to Las Cruces. How much I'm gonna get side blasted here. I'll give you some tips on what I do to manage windy riding conditions. I think some of the wind gusts today are close to 40 miles an hour. So we'll see how the MT-03 handles these conditions. I've never ridden it in such high winds, but a lot of times unfaired bikes like this, naked bikes, are less affected by winds because there's less fairings to catch on the sides. But we'll see how it feels. I'll let you guys know. One tip for riding in windy conditions is to look out for debris. In residential areas like this, you might see trash cans on the road sliding across the road in front of you, or just some of the trash and garbage falling out of residential trash cans can end up on the road. And when you see a box or a piece of trash, you never know how heavy it's going to be or how the bike's going to react to hitting it. So it's always better to anticipate and just go around it. Another tip is to stay loose on the bike. The wind is going to toss the bike to the side. You got to stay loose and let the bike do what it's going to do to correct for the crosswind. If the wind is hitting you from the front, if you have a very strong headwind, what you want to do is, lean into the wind. If you're sitting straight up and you get hit by a strong wind in the front, it's going to push you backwards and you might whiskey throttle a little bit. If you're covering your brake, you might hit the brake accidentally. Because if we have like a 40 mile an hour wind gust like we're seeing today, and you're going at 60 miles an hour and you get hit by a wind gust, all of a sudden that's like you're going 100 miles an hour, and if your body position is not ready for it, it can kind of throw you off. Another tip is to keep your speeds down. So if you have a choice of what route to take to your destination, you might want to take slower side streets instead of getting on the highway. At higher speeds, the wind will affect you more. So far, the MT-03 here is being affected very little by the wind. It feels like it has a good low center of gravity, and because I have no windscreen or big fairings on the side to catch the wind, it's not really getting tossed around much, even though it's a lighter weight bike. So when you're at a stop like here, you want to make sure that you try to keep both feet on the ground. Normally you want to keep the right foot on the brake and just set your left foot down, but when it's very windy and you're at a stop, the wind can be strong enough to throw you off balance. Have both feet on the ground, so as the bike leans, you're ready to catch it in either direction. And when you're in motion, one thing that can be a little bit freaky, to go straight you might actually have to be leaning the bike, and then the wind gust stops and all of a sudden you're turning too much. You gotta straighten out the bike. So you're constantly having to adjust for how the wind is hitting you and how hard it's hitting you, but you gotta stay relaxed and just anticipate that you're gonna have to be making more line corrections when it's windy. There is a limit to how strong a wind you should be riding in. I find that wind speeds above 35-40 miles an hour too sketchy. Try to avoid riding in winds over 35-40 miles an hour when it's constant. Right now we're only getting gusts periodically at that speed. The more constant wind speed is in the mid to upper 20s with occasional gusts. But if there's a constant 40 mile an hour wind with gusts up to 50-60, then I'm not riding in those conditions. Another tip is to avoid mountain passes, because you'll look at the weather report and they quote you a wind speed, but that's typically at the airport or some low-lying location. But if you try to cross the mountains through a high mountain pass, you might hit much higher wind speeds than you anticipated. Crossing over Trans Mountain Road here on my first motorcycle, a Ninja 500, I actually had to pull over because the wind speeds were supposedly about 40 miles an hour, but up there they were much stronger, probably 55 miles an hour, approaching hurricane level 1 winds. And I was leaning the bike at a big angle just to go straight, and then the wind would stop and I would almost fall down. So I had to pull over probably for a good 20-25 minutes until the winds died down a little bit, and then I finished crossing the mountain pass at a very low speed to avoid getting tossed off the bike. The wind has gotten a lot worse. You can see here how much I'm going to get side blasted here. A sudden wind blast kicked up some pebbles and sand right at my head, and even though I have a neck gaiter on, I did get hit in the neck by some little pebbles, which kind of hurt, and if I had no neck gaiter on, it would have been quite a bit worse. If you find this type of content useful, please consider subscribing and hit that like button to be notified of future content.